this down lower. There we go. Just so you know, the cat did not attack me last night. I was at the dermatologist. So anyways, wear your sunscreen when you're young and you won't go through what I'm going through. So we're in Luke chapter 12. We're going to go ahead and read it and do the questions. Before we do, though, I wanted to ask you guys how you would define a parable. Start off with a question without even getting warmed up.
I'd say it'd be a story illustration
Okay, good.
to prove a point or to show somebody something.
That's a good answer. Anybody else?
A story to help people relate the lesson that's being taught.
Okay, real good. So in other words, there's something that maybe is hard to understand because you haven't experienced it before, and so somebody tells you a story similar to it so that you can relate to it, correct? Okay, good. One of the definitions I saw was, a parable is a simple yet powerful story that conveys profound moral and spiritual lessons, often told by Jesus in the Bible. So basically, we're going to be looking at some parables today where Jesus is going to be using parables, or what another word I think is similar is analogies, to where, again, something we're not familiar with. If we say, I'm trying to think of somebody give me a good analogy. Doing my homework is like having a bad headache. I don't know. Anyways. So let's go ahead and get started here reading. And we have 57 verses, so why don't we do 10 each? And we'll start.
In the meantime, when so many thousands of the people had gathered together that they were trembling with fear, he began to say to his disciples first, "Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. Nothing is covered up that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. Therefore, whatever you have said in the dark shall be heard in the light. What you have whispered in private rooms shall be proclaimed on housetops. I tell you, my friends, do not fear those who kill the body, and after that everything more that they can do. But I will warn you whom to fear. Fear him who, after he has killed, has authority to cast into hell. Yes, I tell you, fear him. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? Not one of them is forgotten before God. Why, even the hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear not, you are of more value than many sparrows. And I tell you, everyone who acknowledges me before men, the Son of Man also will acknowledge before the angels of God. But the one who denies me before men will be denied before the angels of God. And everyone who speaks a word against the Son of Man will be forgiven, but the one who blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven.
And when they bring you before the synagogues and the rulers and the authorities, do not be anxious about how you should defend yourself or what you should say, for the Holy Spirit will teach you in that very hour what you ought to say. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And he told them a parable, saying, "The land of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, what shall I do, for I have nowhere to store my crops? And he said, I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones. And there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be?"
So is he that layeth up treasure for himself, and is not rich toward God. And he said unto his disciples, Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, nor your body, neither for your body, what ye shall put on. The life is more than meat, and the body is more than raiment. Consider
So you guys why don't we just do 5 verses each now, since we had some more people pop in, and I know you all want your fair share.
But seek his kingdom, and these things will be provided for you. Don't be afraid, little flock, because your Father delights to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to the poor. Make money bags for yourselves that won't grow old, an inexhaustible treasure in heaven, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Be ready for service and have your lamps lit. You are to be like people waiting for their masters to return from the wedding banquet, so that when he comes and knocks, they can open the door for him at once. Blessed are those servants whom the master, when he comes, will find watching. Surely I say to you that he will gird himself and have them sit down to eat, and will come and serve them. And if he should come in the second watch, or come in the third watch, and find them so, blessed are those servants. But know this, that if the master of the house had known that what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore, you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming. Do not
Peter said, Lord, are you telling this parable for us or for all? And the Lord said, who then is the faithful and wise manager, whom his master will set over his household, to give them their portion of food at the proper time? Blessed is that servant, whom his master will find so doing when he comes. Truly I say to you, he will set him over all his possessions. But if that servant says to himself, my master is delayed in coming, and begins to beat the male and female servants, and to eat and drink and get drunk,
The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour that he does not know, and will cut him in pieces and put him with the unfaithful. And that servant who knew his master's will but did not get ready or act according to his will receive a severe beating. But the one who did not know and did what deserved a beating will receive a like beating. Everyone to whom much was given, of him much will be required, and from him to whom they entrusted much, they will demand more. I came to cast fire on the earth, and would that it were already kindled. I have a baptism to be baptized with, and how great is my distress until it is accomplished.
Do you think that I have come to give peace on earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. For from now on in one house there will be 5 divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. He also said to the clouds, when you see a cloud rising in the west, you say at once, the shower is coming, and so it happens. And when you see the south wind blowing, you say, there will be a scorching heat, and it happens.
You hypocrites, you know how to interpret the appearance of earth and sky, but why do you not know how to interpret the present time? And why do you not judge for yourselves what is right? And as you go with your accuser before the magistrate, make an effort to settle with him on the way, lest he begging to be brought and delivered to the officer, and the officer put you in prison. I tell you, you will never get out until you come to the very last part.
Okay, good job. I think it's always good to read everything. We'll go through the questions then, and then I'm gonna let you guys do a pick your topic thing here and just see where it goes. So I get always stressed out when I'm in church and somebody says we're gonna do something different. I'm like, oh no, we shouldn't be doing things different. But in a Bible class we can a little bit. So, okay, so number 1 is B. Number 2 is A. Number 3 is C. Number 4 is C. Number 5 is D. Number 6 is A. Number 7 is A. Number 8 is A. Number 9 is D. Number 10 is A. Number 11 is D. Number 12 is B. Number 13 is D. 14 is D. 15 is B. 16 is C. 17 is A. 18 is C. 19 is B. 20 is D. And 21 is D. Anybody have something different or disagree with any of those? All right. So there's a lot of information in this chapter, and a lot of these, as you study them, the person once said they lead you into a rabbit hole, meaning you go way off topic when you don't want to. So I came up with 4, there's more than 4 themes, but the 4 that were interesting to me is the concept of retirement. Is it biblical and is it healthy? Because the guy builds, I have a saying, the one person we know about that retired in the Bible died that night. Okay? And it's the guy that built up all the riches and says, I'm going to eat, drink, and be merry. In other words, he's going to retire. And what happens to him? He dies. So beware. The other one is end of times. Talks about being watchful, and that the end of times will happen when we don't expect it, like the thief coming into the home. And how should we view the end of times? And what does the Bible say about the end of times? The other topic is stress and how we deal with it. These verses talk about you not being able to add 1 year of life, or one day to your life by being stressed out. So what good does it do? And God feeds the birds, and aren't you more important than the birds? And then the first one is blaspheming the Spirit. It says it's the unforgivable sin. Should we be concerned about that? Is it possible for us to blaspheme the Spirit today? So those are your 4 topics, and I don't know if we'll get through all of them. We might not. But I decided I would let you guys figure out which ones you want to do. So that's how things are different today. So if you want to do retirement first, raise your hand. Okay, wow, nobody. Okay.
It's way far away.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's never going to happen, right? Some things you think about as you get older. Okay, end of times. Yeah, we got 1, 2. Okay, good. Stress, and how do we deal with stress knowing that we're a Christian? Okay, we got 1, 2. Okay, I think we got like 6 on that. So far that's number 1. And then blaspheming the Spirit. Got 1, 2. Okay, stress it is. I'm stressed out because I didn't prepare as much for that one. So, let me find these notes here. There's a quote that says, if you're stressed out about something and it happens, you felt the pain twice, and if it doesn't happen, you felt the pain only once. So what do you guys think about that? How many of you guys have stress, and who wants to share the type of stress they maybe have in their life? And how you deal with it? Anybody?
What type of stress we have and how we deal with it? Or
Yeah, like what are the things that during the day causes you like, oh no, this is just bothering me a lot?
probably just the number of things there are to be done.
Okay.
What I'm learning and I've learned over the years is like just do the next one and then do the next one. Just instead of all of them and how am I ever, just try to like look at the most important thing is next.
Okay, so you guys are teens. Do any of you have stress over what you're going to do when you make that transition from school to maybe a job or marriage, and how that's going to look and how it's going to turn out? Any stress there a little bit? Why does that stress you out? You guys aren't being very lively here. They're stressed about it. Let me try to find some of my notes here. Well, I might not have them with me, so I'll just kind of, oh no, wait, here we go. Okay, so let's look at Philippians 4, 6-7. It says, "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving let your request be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ." So what is this verse saying right here? Okay, so like in the big picture, what's the most important thing in our life? Our salvation, right? So if any of you ever heard that I'm looking for the meaning of life, have you heard that phrase? What is the meaning of life? I have my own quote for that I made up.
Say to be living in God's will.
Yeah. Anybody else? My quote is, the meaning of life is that it's really not about this life, it's about what happens after this life. Okay? And so I saw this prop once where the guy had a rope and he would take this rope, wrap it around here, go outside, out to the street, all the way back and all the way back in. It was a super, super long rope, and it's a rope that never ended. And at the very part of it, he had this little strip on it, and he said, "This is eternity, and this is your life." Okay? And he said, why do we worry about this little part here when we have this rope that never ends that is symbolizing our life? So if we have peace and confidence in God, why is it that the little things in life cause us stress?
I think part of it's the way we're taught, the way we're raised.
Right?
Our adherence to nature as well.
Yeah, okay, good.
Sometimes we focus so much on just right here and now instead of having a big picture. It's
Right.
difficult to have that, but if we can see beyond just now, then that helps with it.
So those of you that we all have stress, let's admit it, everybody has it. How do we, what are the things that we have no control over? How many of you were stressed over who was going to win the presidential election? No? Okay. I was a little bit, but sorry. How many people have stress about their finances? If you're the head of the household, how many of you are concerned that you'll be able to provide a living for your family, put food on the table, and protect them? We all have that, right? Okay. So again, I want to try to put the emphasis on this, that really one of the best ways we can deal with the stress is to look at the big picture. There's always going to be things day after day after day. I remember back being like as a teenager wanting to throw up over a test in school. And I look back and I think how insignificant that was at the time, you know? Or I remember knowing that there was going to be a verbal confrontation most likely with someone. And it's like, I look back and I go, you know, in the big picture, that really didn't shape my life that much. And so one of the keys is to recognize the things that are facing you. They will pass one way or another. Most of them you don't have that much control over. And again, try to have that peace that passes all understanding. I'm going to read you another verse. This is Ephesians 3:14-19. "For this cause I bow my knees unto the Father, our Lord Jesus Christ, of whom the whole family in heaven and earth is named, that he would grant you, according to the riches of his glory, to be strengthened with his might by his Spirit in the inner man, that Christ may dwell in your hearts by faith, that ye be rooted and grounded in love. May we able to comprehend with all the saints his breadth and his length and his depth and his height, and to know the love of Christ that passes knowledge, that ye may be filled with the fullness of God." And so these verses we're reading tells us that we could come to a knowledge of God to where we really shouldn't be stressed out if we have that total peace of eternal life, and that our focus should be on concentrating on following God, okay? And so when you're in those situations, and I've been stressed out this whole week, try to take that step back and look at the big picture. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're not experiencing peace about something, it's probably a very good reminder to step back and look at your life and see if it aligns with how God wants you to be living your life.
Yeah.
Because God will give you the peace that surpasses all understanding if you're living in His will. But if you're living in opposition to His will, just like any good father would, there will be discipline along with that.
Yeah.
And so, Christians who, claim to be, talk about anxiety all the time, and how, I think a lot of times if we step back, and this is for personal experience, we step back and look at, okay, what exactly am I doing? Am I spending my time, my thought, is Christ my focus, or am I off track?
Right.
And it's a lot better when you step back and realize, wow, I'm messing up. I'm off track in this area. Because then you can experience the peace that God gives you.
Do you think God wants you to be stressed out?
No, it's stress and worry go together. And
Mhm.
from what I understand, worry is not having faith in God, trusting God. Whatsoever is not of faith is sin. Man, when we look at it, that it's like, wow, well, I better not worry. And I think it comes down to maybe 3 points: is trusting God. Says set your affections on things above and not things below. When we set our affections on these things on earth here, yeah, it's going to stress us out. We're going to worry about it. We're going to do our best to take care of these things where our treasure is. And if we set our treasure in heaven, that's where our focus is going to be. So it's trust, treasure, and I forget the third one. Anyway.
Well, interrupt me if you remember it. You got that good. I've used this analogy before. So I'm a parent. A lot of you are parents here. How many of you, if one of your children came to you every day in tears and said, Mom, Dad, I'm just so sorry. I'm letting you down all the time. My bed's not made the way it should be. I don't clean my room. I'm not getting straight A's. I know I must just be a disappointment to you. And they're trembling and shaking all the time. What are you going to say to them?
Well, I would feel as
Oh, Sam, you go. I want to get everybody.
I think at that point, I would recognize that I had totally misled my child in their upbringing on what my expectations of them were and where my heart for their heart would be. So, I know that probably is not what your question is.
No, actually, that's the answer I was hoping you would say. So that's perfect. So you would say to yourself, I misled you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't expect you to be perfect, right? Okay, anybody else?
Well, I think to what Sam's saying too, the way I'd approach it would be why this is important. You know what I mean? Maybe they don't understand why that's important to, make their bed or do those little things, and try to get on the same page with them to explain those expectations as well.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I think even with that, just having kids, it's obvious that, different personalities struggle more with worry than others. And having that grace in everybody that we deal with to know that, yeah, that's a struggle, maybe we shouldn't be doing that, but they may struggle with worry, I may struggle with something else, and we all have kind of our Achilles heel when it comes to sinful things. But
Okay, good.
having grace.
You kids, you listening to this? Your parents don't expect you to be perfect, and it should not stress you out when you're not, okay? Now, we use the analogy of the parent-child relationship here. What about the God relationship that he has with us? Just as all you parents have said, I would not want my kids to feel that way. I would feel like maybe I misled them. I would maybe explain who said what's important to them. I kind of think God views it that way too when he looks at us and he sees us just stressed out, we're sweating, we can't sleep at night, we can't focus, we can't eat. I think God's looking at that the way we heard all the parents talk about the children here. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, God doesn't expect us to be perfect on our own because he knows we can't. That's why
Okay,
Christ
good.
came and died. When he says, in the Bible, be holy for I am holy. We're not holy on our own. We are made holy through God. And so he's done far more than any earthly father can do. He's made it all happen for us. And it's not of ourselves.
Okay,
Once
good.
you're in him, obviously you have sanctification, which is a little
So in other words, God knows we're not perfect beings on our own, but he gives us a way to be perfect before him, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could say. Okay, good. Kevin, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just thinking that sometimes when we become overly worried and stressed and stuff, it can almost be like an idolatry issue because I'm putting this thing above God, you
Right.
know? Whereas if I have my loves or my things ordered correctly and God's at the top, then those other things tend to fall into place. But if I start stressing out about everything, I may have put them in his place.
Yeah, that's good. I haven't heard that before. So in other words, if I'm reading you right, is that stress can be a form of idolatry. We're letting something ruin our day, ruin our health, maybe even shorten our life, something we probably don't have any control over, and we're lifting that thing up and making it more important than our relationship with God. Okay, so here's the big, powerful question. How do we not be stressed out? How do we do that?
There's something that has to trigger you to remember that God's got you.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I was saying, you gotta go to him and just let go of what you're wanting and just let him take control.
Yeah, very good. So basically surrender, that song, I Surrender All. Surrender it all to God, maybe pray, right? Ask God for peace that passes understanding. You know?
I think remembering his faithfulness, remembering like what you just read from Ephesians 3, how unlimited his love is, you know, remembering all that, remembering how he's been faithful to you before, delivered you before, you know, sometimes can be a helpful thing.
Yeah.
Larry, I think also it's knowing who you are as well, because like for me, up until the past couple months, I've always been someone to bottle up my stress, internalize it, not letting anybody know what's going on. And really the past couple months, I've learned to find people to talk to about it and talk with others about it instead of, I've always been a listener and talking with others such as Kevin, you, Eric, about things that are going on. You know, it helps me to hear God through them
Right.
in a lot of ways about what I should do with that stress and what's going on.
So having good relationships where you could talk about people, and there's the verse, bear one another burdens and you fulfill the law of Christ. And so having a support group. Okay, good. I'll touch on quickly here retirement, even though nobody raised their hand. Prerogative of the facilitator, I'll say. But there were people saying to me, contemplate retirement. And it was stressing me out. And I was questioning whether it was biblical or not. I went out and started interviewing people and saying to people, hey, you're retired. What's it really like? Most people would say it's wonderful, and then 10 minutes in the conversation go, you know, I got a confession to make. One person told me, he goes, sometimes it's great. Sometimes I wake up in the morning, I do my exercises, I clean the house. It's 9, 10 o'clock, and I have nothing to do but watch the news and get depressed all day. And so I did a little research, and the concept of, with the exceptions of kings and rulers, retirement really wasn't even a concept in culture until the late 1800s. And so it's something, if we go all the way back in time, I'm going to say 6,000 years, it's something that really didn't exist. People didn't even talk about it or plan about it. And one of the things that happens is, at least for me, was when I went back and I read the story of Genesis, where Adam and Eve, they worked in the garden. God made them to work, and yet here we are saying, I'm going to work to a certain point. Not you, Eric, by the way. You work hard still, I know that. But I'm going to work to this point, and then I'm going to party. And that's just not a biblical concept. You know, sometimes you transition from one chapter to the other. The other thing that happens when you start contemplating that is you start thinking, well, how much longer do I have to live, and do I have enough money to get me to the end? If you go to a retirement calculator, it says, how much money do you want to spend every month? It doesn't say how long do you have to live, but it says how many years do you want to draw on this? What's the rate of return on your investments, and what's the inflation rate? And it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to predict I got this much longer to live. Again, which I don't think is very biblical. I think what we're reading here, especially in chapter 12, is be on guard, work, be diligent, do things. So I thought I'd just add that. Okay, so we got end of times and blaspheming the Spirit, and 6 minutes to solve these two major problems. Which ones do you guys want? The end of times or the blaspheming the Spirit? Let's do end of times. Let's do end of times. So in getting ready for this, I was just curious how many times in history prominent people had tried to predict the end. And so anyways, I'm not going to read them all to you. But people have been predicting the end of times for a long, long time. There has been times in the past where the church has felt like the world's so evil. God has to end it soon. People have picked dates, sold their possessions, hiked to high mountaintops, done all kinds of stuff, and yet we're still here today. In this verse here, Jesus rebukes the people saying you can predict the weather, but you can't see the signs of the times. So is it right for us to try to predict when the end of time will come, when Jesus will come back? Okay, that's a whole other topic on what that's going to look like. But can any of us know, can Jesus even know when the end of times will be?
It's not right for us to predict.
Okay.
It is right for us to live as if it's happening in the next second.
Right.
But we're to look for it, expect it, but we're not to predict it.
Yeah, and I have, my biggest problem is trying to keep my notes straight. Who has that verse that says, only the Father knows the end? Does anybody have that memorized? Okay, here it is. It's Matthew 24, 36 to 44. Are you okay reading that, Kevin? Just because you got a nice, powerful voice, and I can't see that well.
Which
It's
verse was it?
36 to 44.
Okay. Sure. But concerning that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only. For as we were in the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Whereas in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day when Noah entered the ark. They were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away. So will be the coming of the Son of Man.
Yeah.
How far did you want to go?
Are you okay going up to 44?
Sure. Then 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and one left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and one left. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake, would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect.
Very good. So what do you guys think about that? It's going to come when we don't expect it.
Now, when he says an hour, the day nor the hour, is it possible that we can know maybe within a couple months? It's not the day nor the hour, but he compares it as seasons.
Right.
Exactly what day it's gonna really start? I don't know, just a question.
I would say that the early church, and you can read it, the early church expected it to happen right away.
Yeah.
In God, in Christ, within the lifetime of those who were still alive when Christ was here. And throughout every generation, there's some crisis or disaster where, we expect it to happen. Or say, oh, it's gonna have to happen after this. Like, during the bubonic plague, I'm sure there's a lot of, this is it. There are prophecies that God gives that will happen before, but even then, it could be 5,000 years. We don't know. I think it's wrong to even focus in saying, well, it's gonna happen. I think it's gonna happen in this period, because if it doesn't happen in that period, how many people would put their hope in a false prophecy and possibly be led astray? Even if you just think, I bet it's gonna happen now. But if somebody else takes that and says, oh, if it doesn't happen, then Christianity is false. So there's a danger of possibly misleading others. Even if you think, man, I just don't see how it's not gonna happen in my lifetime. At the end of the day, only God knows. And to try to point it to any other time outside of leaving it to God is.
Sam, okay, good. Did you have something, Sam?
Yeah, I think as a Christian walk, I think it's extremely irrelevant when the end of time is. Because the scriptures were so clear how to live our lives. Once we have received the Holy Spirit, what our job is for our life. Growing deeper with Him, spreading the gospel, sharing the love of Jesus. And, when you start getting caught up of being, well, this is a point in time where I've got to be ready, just do your job.
Yeah.
Just do your job. Do what you're supposed to be doing. Do what you're called to do. And it'll all take care of itself.
Well, no, that's a good comment. There was a person once who was dying and didn't have that much longer to go when I was visiting him. I said, is there anything you want to do? Well, I asked my dad that question, expecting right before he died, expecting him to say, no, let's just hang out together. And he said, can you fix that light switch over there on the wall? I'm like, I will fix that light switch. And I went to the equivalent of Home Depot and bought a light switch because that's what he wanted. There was another person I asked that question to. I said, do you want me to mow your lawn? And he goes, do you know how irrelevant that is right now? Just a difference in attitude. All these predictions here, should we be happy that that wasn't the end of times? Because guess what? We wouldn't be here. So I heard one person once say that they didn't believe the end of times would come until there were no more souls left to be saved. And again, I don't know. I'll give you my belief on this. That when it talks the day and the hour, that's a little allegorical saying, if that's a word. It's a kind of saying, or it's a, what do you call it, a metaphor for you just don't know. Because it does say, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven or the Son, but the Father only. And I kind of think like what Sam said and Adam said, if we thought we knew the end, it would substantially influence us. So these people that are getting ready to die, and he goes, I don't care if the lawn's mowed anymore. It would change who we are, but there's an element, I believe God has us here on earth. A lot of people say like, well, why are we here? And I go, I believe He's preparing us for heaven. We're learning more about His will. We're learning the sin nature. We're learning the powerful thing that Jesus did for us and is preparing us for heaven. But it would substantially change who we were if we knew the end. And so we have to kind of be like that thief in the night where we don't know. Go ahead, Adam.
Matthew 24, 22, Jesus says, if those days had not been cut short, no human being would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. So whenever it happens, it's for the sake of the elect.
Yeah.
So God knows. It's in God's hands.
Go ahead.
this could be the day where he returns, what would that do to our issues of worry and stress? Seems like that would dissipate, right?
If we had confidence in our salvation,
Yeah,
yes.
if I'm just living for him, he could come back today, all of a sudden it puts things in the right order, I think.
Yeah. When I talk to people about their financial situation, I was talking to a young guy in his 20s. He's planning to get married, have a family, and we were talking about balance in life. And one of the things I say to people is, you want to try to create an environment where you go to work and you say, I love my job. You come home and you say, I love my house. I love my family. I love my kids. If I die today, it was a great life. And at the same time, if you live to be 70, 80, or 90, you got a plan to sustain you for the rest of the life. You don't want to party too much today and then sacrifice tomorrow. And at the same time, you don't want to suffer too much today and think that tomorrow is going to be a better day. You want to try to find that balance. And the only way you find that balance, I believe, is through trusting in God. And if you have that attitude that I'm going to trust in God, I'm going to look at that big picture, I'm going to have that balance, I do believe it doesn't matter, as you said, Sam, it's irrelevant when the end of the day is. You're ready every day, but yet you got a plan. And then we talk about stress, and we get that peace that passes all understanding. And then that should bring us comfort too, because we're ready. So like you young people, have you ever been in a situation where you got to take a test and you're like, I'm ready, bring it on. I have studied. There's not going to be one answer on that test. The Bible Bowl, right? You guys always get like high 90s, right? But then you get upset because you missed 1 out of 100. And we're going like, man, that's pretty good. And you're like, darn it, I missed one, right? But you ever have that sense where you're like, bring it on, I'm ready? Wouldn't it be kind of nice to have confidence and say like, if today's the day, I've been living the life I should be living. I'm ready for God to come. I'm ready for him to bring me up. Wouldn't that be cool? And believe it or not, that's reality. You can have all that. So our time's up, so thank you. And then who wants to pass out 13? Gideon, I heard you volunteer.